Nation, today is Monday, January 29th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. To my right, I did a little different today. I'm going to start over to the right. This is Eric Nicksick, the general manager of Extreme Couture, head coach to many fighters. To our left is Gorgeous George, the host of the show. He does this show every day. He's the guy that keeps everything in line. And to his left, MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst, Dan Tom. And back in New York in an undisclosed location. We won't tell you where exactly he's at, but he's there. His name's Danny Okers, and he produces the show. What's up, everybody?
What's going on?
What's up? What's up?
Danny
Danny was the main event. Dan was the co-main event. I was the Fox Sports 1 prelims.
Fight pass.
Fight pass of
I
us.
love it.
did different,
I
yeah,
love it. I get to get in, get out, and have some beers.
pretty much. I'm
It's
looking out
true.
for you.
Yeah.
It's true.
What is that, Eric?
That is a bulletproof coffee.
Bulletproof coffee.
Ooh.
Is that the Dolce thing?
I don't know. It might be.
Did you buy it or did you make it?
I bought this one over at Juice Standard.
Oh, okay, so it's not.
Yeah,
You know
but I
the-
can make them. I make them. I just didn't. I was running out a little late, so
Yeah?
I ran over there and grabbed one.
You know who's the most notorious person for wanting to fight early and just get it over with?
No, notorious who?
I'll give you guys a guess.
Is it Tony Ferguson?
No.
Who?
Do you want to guess Dan or Eric? Or just
I'm
waving
trying to
the
think
white
of
flag?
any
I'm gonna
of
go
my
with.
guys.
I'm gonna go with
When I
a.
say it, you guys go, oh, fuck. Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna go with a dark horse. Useless Gomez.
No.
All right.
I know Brad
It's
likes to
been a
get in
minute.
and out.
Brad?
Brad's like, fuck. I still get paid the same wherever I'm at on the lineup. Let's get out of here.
Let's go eat.
Exactly.
No. This guy would beg if he had to. And he had reached probably co-main event status. Maybe main event. Actually, main event because he's supposed to have a title shot once. Carl Parisian.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
I mean, this
yeah,
guy
yeah.
would like, he
Up
would
and
freak
dirty.
out. It was anxiety.
Really?
And so he wanted to really just fight early. He didn't care. That's just the way it was.
Huh?
Do you remember? You guys remember Carl Parisian?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, the Heat. That's right.
Yeah, he came out and trained with us quite a bit, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Randy used to corner him a few
Had the
times.
grappling lineage from Neil back in
Yeah,
the day too.
exactly.
So, but I never had a lot of experience with him. But that was the word. Yeah, he was pretty open about that, right? The anxiety.
Mhm.
Guys are coming up in 10. Stand by.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us. There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
we've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio, commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our East co-host. Back East, handling all the producing duties, Danny Otto. To my left, the latest addition, Dan Tom. He's the fight analyst. And to our right is the co-host for the day. He's the Extreme Couture general manager and coach to many fighters like Dan Ige, Uriah Hall, Gray Maynard, and many others. It's Eric Nicksick.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Hi.
How's everybody doing?
Good weekend.
Doing great.
Good.
Hey, I just want to say something real quick.
Sure.
Happy birthday to our cousin Jamie.
Yes.
Can't believe you forgot, George.
No, I didn't. I Facebooked her earlier today. I Facebooked her earlier today. Jamie's been to the Junkie Gathering a few times now. 2 times, right?
2 times. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people know who she is. Happy birthday, Jamie. Again, from me, for the first time from Goes.
I was waiting for the show because that way more people would see it. And be a big thing for her. Make her feel special, you know?
Yeah.
Facebook, I just kind of do that for everyone. Because it kind of pops up and tells you. So really there's not too much effort that goes into it. I was more planning some stuff out and making it real special for her. It's a good cousin. I like her.
She is.
I'm a text message guy.
You're a text message guy?
Yeah, like
I call for birthdays.
Call's good. Yeah,
I call for
normally
birthdays.
I text message.
Yeah.
I call for other stuff. Condolences, you know. Like birthday's kind of.
See, I don't do that. I flip it. I basically have the reverse philosophy as you. Because on condolences, I look at it as everyone else is probably hitting that person up, and they're probably so drained that I usually send maybe a Facebook, and I just say, hey, thinking of you. I know there's a lot going on. Just want you to know that you're in my thoughts.
Wouldn't the same apply, though, to the birthday? Oh, it just gets buried with all the others?
No, this is different. So I let them know that, hey, I am thinking of you, but I know you need your space right now. Deal with your family, and then I do the call.
Yeah. I think of it like a postman or something. Like, well, maybe not a postman because they probably have different rules or whatever. But if I was giving someone like a note and I didn't want to bother them, I could either knock on the door and engage in a conversation, or, you know what, I don't want to disturb this person. Let me just slide it under. That way I know they get it.
The slide?
Yeah, and that's what it feels. Maybe if it's like something like condolences, maybe something that's, a little heavier on the topic. Not that you don't want to be there for the person or, but like you said, maybe it's just not a good time, but you do want to let them know that you're there and that somenene's there. So you just slide them something kind under the door as opposed to
slide under the door.
I've always felt
I
that
am.
text is people that are scared.
Oh, definitely.
In one way or another, people that text are scared. And my buddy Johnny, great friend of mine, he used to say, "Oh, I love this texting thing because I don't have to talk to these chicks because we were single back in the days." So he wasn't comfortable with the whole 7 dinner and being charming and all that. He just at some point that would be addressed, but at least he would establish like, what are you doing after work or whatever. So his was uncomfortable, but it was just he was scared of that, right? And then as far as like I think birthdays, especially from a distance, it's probably someone that you're close to, but they're not that close to.
Right.
But you want to know that if your mom or someone calls and says, "Did you call your aunt or did you call your cousin?" You just go, "Yeah, I did." I got him a message or whatever. But I don't know. I like the call whenever possible. Now, granted, I'm not skipping to the phone to make the call. I am going, here we fucking go. and I go through the right things, but I give them everything. I always give them everything. I listen. I don't try and multitask.
Right.
And then at the end, I close. And what I've noticed is that remains with the older generation.
Right.
So they'll then tell my mom, you know who called today? Georgie. That's what they call me. And he said this, and we chatted about that, and blah, blah, blah. So that makes my mom feel good, and then, of course, I get the pat on the head.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm Jordan.
Do you want to know why, Junkie Nation, you should never slide anything under our door? I found this out 3 years ago. Underneath our door,
is there a draft?
It's like I don't know how to describe it, like an upside-down U, an N, I guess. So when people slide things under, it gets stuck. Yeah, it gets stuck inside the door.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't know this. Somebody had told me, hey, by the way,
within the thick door.
Yeah, on the bottom of the door, it's actually like this. It's hollow.
Right.
So what happened was somebody said, like, I dropped off a Chipotle card or something, right? And they had slid it under the door. I'm like, there's nothing here. I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, I slid it. I know I did this and that. So finally, I tried to reach under there, and I felt that there was like a hole in there. So I had to call security come. They had to take the door off its hinges. Yeah. And when they did that, there was all kinds of stuff in there. Notes like, hey, love your show. Wanted to stop by.
Help me.
Subpoena.
There was all kinds of stuff in there. Help me.
Cease and assist.
Yeah, so don't ever slide anything.
The same door?
It's the same door.
When we switched the studio, we didn't switch doors.
So if you ever want to leave something, you can either leave it at the sports book or you can slide it through the window there.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. Well, what'd you guys think of the fights on Saturday? UFC on Fox 27, also known as UFC Charlotte. You got somewhere to be, or?
No, I was just making sure that we're good on time.
Okay. We just started the 2-hour show.
I know, but we talked a little bit about sliding things under doors and this and that.
What'd you think of UFC on Fox 27?
I thought it was fun. There's a certain flow to cards. Sometimes it can be a great card, but because certain fights drag on or something. It'll ruin the flow. I thought this card had a decent flow to it, and I thought it was fun. The main event surprised me a little bit. I just didn't see that happening. I picked Jacare, but I didn't see it going
By
down
head
the
kick.
same way. Yeah.
Yeah. The decisions killed me through Fox Sports 1 a little bit. But then once we got into the main card, we did have 2 finishes. One was the main event, so I was left feeling pretty good, like something was accomplished. I guess what sucked was all week, whether it was staff picks, whether it was the video we recorded, whether it was my parlays, I was on Team Brunson.
Yeah.
So that's why, even though we got our finish as fans, just as someone trying to make some loot on the side, it did not go well for me. Feely won, but I kind of disagreed with the decision, but I had him. So even winning, I thought, ooh, I got away with one there.
Right.
It's that. I always tell the guys, when you bet, it's a lot more clear as a fan than when you're just a fan. All right, because you're watching it a little bit more intense. You have something on there, and when the fight goes to a decision, if you have that feeling in your stomach, it's because you think that the split decision should go in favor of the other guy. Or at least the 29-28 across the board. It was close, but you have a feeling I'm about to get fucked. Because my guy didn't do enough. And that's what I thought. I thought Dennis Bermudez was the one that was going to get called. Andre Feely got called, and I go, whoa. I mean, I felt like I dodged the bullet. But
so do you think that the takedowns that he scored weighed heavier than a lot of the leg kicks that Bermudez was implementing?
I'm guessing with the way they scored it was my guess. I picked Feely, and even I was a bit surprised like George. Now, there were people, a small minority who were scoring it live. There were a larger minority of people who went back and watched it. I have not. I had to turn the page, but who went back and watched it and said they can understand more where the judges were coming from. But sometimes, and I don't know, maybe, Eric, you're the same way because, you've seen it so much just from the practice room to even being in the UFC corners on these fights that you see it almost from a different eye because a fighter can BS the judges and he can know how to work the point game. But there are certain things that you can see that can cut through, that kind of cut through the BS, so to speak. So when you see a guy getting hurt by leg kicks, and you can see that Feely's got a great poker face. He's sticking to his game plan, and he deserves credit for that, right? But me scoring it, I saw that damage taking place, hence why maybe I was leaning toward Bermudez. Is that what you were feeling too?
I agree with you 100%, and that was something too where you're looking at effective damage as a judge. So the takedowns that Feely scored were perfect timing things where he's scoring, he's keeping that momentum, but is he causing fight-ending type of damage with these takedowns? And he wasn't. Bermudez was scrambling, getting right back up to his feet. He wasn't holding position very long. But then when he was scoring those leg kicks, are they fight-ending? They could have been. If you remember with Tavares and Talasletis, that was our game plan, was to attack that lead leg. We could have ended that fight with that kick. And it's been happening more and more.
Lima was this close to defending his belt against McDonald.
Stevens and Melendez.
McDonald had to get him off his feet. Otherwise, he was barely able to stand.
Correct. So the emphasis of that kick is damn near fight ending as it wears on later on in the fight. So, the one thing I was very impressed with Feely was when you have such a very good offensive wrestler, they come in very aggressive, and that camp and Feely took advantage of that and was able to take him down and put him on his back, which I love. I love that game plan a lot of times to kind of flip the script and see if you could put the guy on his back, because the last thing you expect is Feely to shoot and take this guy down.
GSP in the early days, right?
Exactly. I'm going to beat you at your own game. And that's what he did, and maybe the judges scored that a little heavier for him.
Well, the judges I felt were a little bit off all night.
Inconsistent, at least.
Yes,
very much.
There was in a lot of fights there were one judge that was just kind of completely watching a different fight. Right?
Correct.
If you look at the night overall, the Camacho Dober fight, a lot of people, if you're looking at social media, we're going two different ways on that fight.
Kish as well.
Kish as well.
Wreck
the
my
Feely
parlay,
fight, and then also the Pichel Silva fight was close too. So there was a lot of that Pichel and Silva as well. So, but that kind of makes it fun, doesn't it?
But I was like, oh, they're gonna give it to the other guy. Same thing, that feeling. And then I was like, oh, I got away with one there. And here's my point. I always say that when it's a close fight, the onus is on the fighters because you have to fight till the end. You know what I mean? And here's the damn thing of it. I thought Bermudez was fighting stronger at the end. I thought he was going for it. He was trying to win that round so that he could win what could be a 1-1 fight or it could be 2-0 either way. We don't know. But so let me take you through what the judges had scored.
Okay.
Round 1, Pedro Claudio gave Feely a 10-9. Derek Cleary gave Feely a 10-9, and Steve Elliott gave Bermudez a 10-9. Now, Steve Elliott gave Bermudez all arounds. All right, so just know that he scored a 30-27 for Bermudez.
See, so off the top of my head, I don't know how you can have scored round 1 for Bermudez. Do you?
I think I actually might have leaned to him live, but that's just live. I mean, I gotta watch it
again.
Off the
top of my head, It
was a close one.
I would have put down 10-9 Feely.
Me too.
But I'd have to watch it again just to be super.
Here's what it was.
Convinced.
It was the momentum. The same momentum George is talking about. That what made it so hard. Oftentimes, what makes these bad decisions hard is when the guy finishes strong, but he kind of got edged out the first 2 rounds.
Right.
That is the perfect recipe. Fill in the blank. X's for Y's. We see it all the time. Decision gets booed, right?
Yeah.
But with the first round, what you're talking about, it makes for a great argument because that was the same argument within that same round where you have the momentum of one guy early doing damage, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas another guy coming strong late and doing traditional things that in our head win rounds whether we agree with it or not, which are takedowns. Right. So, I mean, it's a completely perfect question to ask that could have, you could have 2 different perspectives on. But I think that's why that one it was a controversial one. So where we see these 30-27, well, how you get 30-27? And I picked Feely, and I even his underrated wrestling. That was something that I put in my breakdown. That didn't necessarily surprise me, but yes, if I'm being honest, the decision did surprise me a little bit because, again, like what we were talking about, Eric, I was leaning a little more toward damage. That's what more my eyes were fixated.
And the 2017 rules, which we're now in 2018, but we call them where there's a strong emphasis on damage, they were not in effect.
So they could have changed a lot of these results, though.
Possibly,
they were implemented.
possibly. So that's another one with the fingers. They have to be exaggeratedly pointed up and some other stuff. But so round 2, Pedro Claudio has it 10-9 for Bermudez. So now he has it 1-1 going into 3. Mm-hmm. Derek Cleary gives a 10-9 to Feely. So Bermudez can't win unless he finishes them or scores a 10-7, because even a 10-8 would be a draw. He's already scored the first 2 for Feely. And Elliott has scored I told you he scored all 3 for Bermudez, so obviously he scored this one for Bermudez. So Elliott and Cleary's cards are kind of done in a way because we know the results. So I don't have to say if a 10-8 happens or if a 10-7 happens. So in round 3 again, I thought of the 2, Bermudez went for it more again. He was the one pushing the pace. He was the one I thought that was causing executing more offense. I just thought he was the one that actually went for it and deserved Claudio's card. Therefore, he would have been the winner. And that's where I usually say it's on the fighter to try and convincingly. I thought Bermudez was trying to convincingly win the round. I thought, man, of course he could have done more, but I thought he did enough to get that 10-9. So I thought in that particular case, he just got jobbed by that guy, man.
There's definitely an argument there, but you know what the ironic...
But I guess I'll have to watch round 3. You said rewatch it, right?
Yeah, you should.
I got to rewatch it, too, but when you're talking, what it reminds me of? The ironic thing is, like, most people picking Feely, like me and Goes, were thinking, like, oh, he's going to get caught coming in, because that's been Bermudez's typical foil, right? Whether he's winning or losing, he'll get caught coming in, right? It'll almost or cost him the fight. In this last 2 fights, though, he's lost 2 split decisions where his aggression did cost him it, but not necessarily by striking. He actually got out-wrestled for these last 2 decisions by Elkins and now Feely. So it's kind of, it's kind of sour grapes. Hard not to feel for a guy like Bermudez, who I love his style. But if I can I ask you guys, since you brought it up, about the Kish fight? Because, as you know, I went 10-2 in picks. I actually did pretty good in picks, but like George, I was on the Brunson train, so I kind of fell hard at the end. I lost my play on Brunson, but the fight won't see round 3 cash for the hedge. Unfortunately, though, my parlay piece, the one other play, it crashed. And Eric, you said you were on Quiche as well?
A 5-teamer. She was, it was the first one out of the gate, so I ended up reloading on the other 4. But yeah, I had her. I didn't get to see the fight. I was actually with my kids and doing some stuff, and I came home and I just looked at the account.
You didn't get to see the
looked
fight.
at the account and I was like, oh man, I'm already down. I'm already down money, and then the rest of them rolled in.
Yep.
I had Bobby Green, Dober. Yeah, I had all the crew. So.
Did you guys see that one?
I didn't get it. I didn't get the decision.
I thought Kish won.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about consistency. If we're going, if we're not scoring by damage and we're going by old school, by takedowns, quote-unquote, ring generalship, volume, those are the 3 traditional standpoints from the older judging, right?
She beat her with a punch every time?
Then she should have been that, because the only thing Kish had going against her was that she, like many fighters, she bleeds very easily, so she had a visual going in by the time this late second round hit. But aside from that, was out-voluing, punctuating the exchanges, dictating the terms of the fight, where in the ring it was going on. I might have been biased, but...
The only thing Kim has going for her is she really looks good when she strikes.
When she's on,
So I think because of her foot movement and the way she just glides and throws her punches, it does look like a superior fighter fighting more of a brawler, I guess.
Yeah.
But again, that's This is the ultimate fighting championship, not the ultimate boxing or the ultimate technique.
Right.
There's nothing of that to really account for. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. Sometimes you're going to be up against the cage and a shoulder shrug or a nice elbow. You know, I mean, if you're doing something and all the other person did was maybe throw a beautiful jab, I mean, I still, I'm going to wait towards the one that's causing a little bit more damage.
When you start doing all these shows in locations that might not see a lot of MMA, you're dealing with a lot of boxing judges. And for the four of us, we've probably seen 10 times more MMA fights than these judges have seen. So what's their scoring criteria? What are they looking at? And we'll never know, but they don't really have the experience I think a lot of MMA judges might have coming to Vegas or going out to California, you know?
I thought overall, it was a fun card, but I'm becoming more and more of an MMA snob. And the one thing that turns me off a little bit is when I go through a whole card that doesn't have, when you go through all the winners, if there aren't people that I feel like can threaten the champions, I almost tune out a little bit.
Who was your biggest, who were you impressed with the most on that card?
I got to give a pairing, performance-wise and also on a topic that you guys were talking about as far as when the decision gets rendered. And I'm going to go with both Dober and Camacho. Camacho, I mean, kind of in the game on him, he does, bring those kind of fights. Dober is really evolved, and I think he deserves credit as a martial artist there. But even getting the nod Dober did, you guys talk about sweating and not sure about getting the decision. Dober actually took his mic time to put over his opponent, and it's something that Camacho did when he missed weight and said, "I want my bonus to go to Damian Brown in his last fight."
Right.
And you saw Dober without any initiation kind of elect to pay it forward, and that kind of honesty also was really refreshing because how many times does the fighter get the decision, and you can read on their face they know they didn't get. They're like, "Yeah, I got that decision." You're like, "Come on, man, we can watch the replay and look at your face. You were sweating that one," and I just really appreciate that. So maybe it's a cop-out answer, but I go to those two.
I got a long answer. You want to give yours first?
Well, first I wanted to say Mirsad Bektik, and that's going to be my
I'll say
pick.
him too.
But I was impressed by Randa Marcos too.
Nice.
That's the one fight I missed. She looked pretty good.
I thought she did, and I thought she said all the right things in the post-fight.
All right, starting from the beginning, that Corey Sandhagen, did you guys see him?
Oh yeah.
Woo, man.
The demon.
He can fight. Like, he's exciting. I can't wait for his next one right away.
Oh, yeah.
Post-fight speech was pretty good, too. But I'm down with him, man. He just comes forward, throws everything hard, and he's just shucking and jiving. He's got some swag to him. He took a couple, though, from Arnett. He took a couple. I remember there was a three-piece. Bah, bah, bah. You heard all three. It really sounded something like that goes down in a bar. And he did not go down, and he just kept going forward. He's got a little bit of Jason Knight, the Diaz brothers, just a little bit of that swag without going overboard just yet. But I really, really liked him. He only fought.
Me too.
He fought last week, too, at LFA.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and they called him up, and he did it.
Nice.
What's up?
Oh, just saying.
Okay. And I was happy for Vince Pichel. I thought Joaquin Silva his name was going to be announced, but Vince got it. And what can you say? Again, I benefited because I played him, and he gave Adam Hunter the shout out. So that was very, very cool. Kish lost, and I don't know. She said she could still make strawweight, and I think she's got a decidedly strong strength advantage on a lot of strawweight. She may want to revisit that unless it's a difficult weight cut. I'm not encouraging anything she doesn't want to do, but she says she hasn't closed the door there. I missed the Marcos fight. Chukagian keeps winning aside from the fight in NYC. I think she's undefeated. Bektik looked great. Body punch. I mean, right here, man.
Yeah.
Like,
we worked that a lot.
I didn't. They kept saying liver shot, but liver's down below a little bit.
It was right in the diaphragm.
Right in the diaphragm.
Exactly. Almost like he just took the wind out of him for starters. And I imagine it's just like landing on the football. You know what I mean?
Or taking that helmet right there. I mean, that takes away your breath.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, of course, Bektik was going to pick him off anyway, even if he got his breath back. I was also impressed with Bobby Green. Just when I think he's going to be – I really feel like he could be a pretty good fighter. Like, I mean, he is a pretty good fighter, actually. I think he could be even better. But he just seems to have these setbacks in his personal life, losing a brother, working other jobs, injuries. He could never get set on track, and so I thought Coke was going to take him, but he actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, if he can just become a full-time fighter and focus for the next 2-3 years, who knows? Maybe he could be right back up there. He had an 8-fight win streak at one point.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
Yeah. And he wasn't chatting as much. It seemed like he got a little bit away from that. He was just fighting. I was impressed with Camacho. I was also in a losing effort. I was also impressed with There was another one. Silva. Silva packs a lot of muscle, and I kept waiting for him to gas, and he didn't, man. He really pushed Vince Pichel. So, again, he dropped the fight. That was his first loss, but still, I think we'll see more out of him. I think he's gone 3-0 in the UFC prior to that. Gillespie looked good against Jordan Rinaldi. Rinaldi, I felt bad. I wanted a little bit more of a better representation of himself because he's from North Carolina. Same goes for Brunson. Felt really bad for Bermudez. I thought he was going to get it, but what are you going to do? And then Souza and Brunson I just wanted a little bit more of a fight.
Yeah, Gillespie was my guy. He stood out to me the most on that entire card, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he didn't really want to push himself though. And I know he's a guy that loves the fish and he's respectful and he's not a talking trash guy. I get all that, but I just don't want him. When you see a guy that fights that well, why would you want him to fight 8 fights just to get the attention of the matchmaker and the promoter and the fans, and then be clamoring for this world title shot when you could maybe get there in 4 or 5? Just amp it up a little bit. Say a few things. You don't have to tell somebody you're going to kick their ass and sleep with their sister afterwards.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I watched him fight in Pittsburgh on
just
that
say a little bit
card
more,
out there.
that's all.
And I was impressed with him then too. Like, man, this kid's a stud.
Yeah, I'm super impressed. And I
UFC's got a lot of money to share. You know what I mean? Go get yours. Go ahead.
I definitely hear you, George. But I will say I am glad that this time that he at least acknowledged it in the sense of there's guys where they don't say anything and they just say I'll take who's next, or I'm here to work hard, or thank you this or that, and that's it. And they don't push themselves. You're right. But I like that he at least acknowledged it in this time and said, hey, whether you agree with it or not, he goes, hey, I'm not going to be that guy. If you want exciting fights, I'll be that guy. And I think that if regardless, I think he'll be able to get away with it because he's got that prospect path.
Kind of refreshing.
It's refreshing to me.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to me, and I think, but to be fair to what George is saying, I think that it does apply to fighters in general. But I think Gillespie, he might get away with it though because he's got that prospect track, right? The NCAA wrestling, the push. There's already such a huge push behind him. They're already kind of giving them the prospect track of opponents that I think that they are giving him a measured track, but I think it's more of a measure because he's a prospect, not so much because he's not going to get rid of his mouth. I think they're bringing him along slowly, and now you kind of can't deny him. So we're going to see him in a bigger platform next. But yeah, I mean, all the fighters are, like you said, George.
They all come around.
They're responsible for their own ceiling.
They all come around and wonder why they didn't get paid more, why being the company man didn't work out.
Stipe.
And CTE. Yeah, exactly. They all come around, man. And so what I'm saying is there's money to be had. They've already told you what they're looking for. Go out there and give us a little bit of a taste of it.
Yeah.
Whatever. All right, you're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back, and we'll take some calls. Get in the queue at 866-522-2846.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tax. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The best of SiriusXM Super Bowl coverage is all on one channel, Super Bowl 52, radio channel 145. Hear the news and interviews with athletes and entertainers from all of SiriusXM's channels, broadcasting from the Mall of America. Super Bowl 52 launches today at 11 a.m. Eastern on channel 145. That means they're on right now, folks. Patriots versus the Eagles. What's it down to? It kept going down, down, down. Started off like at 6, 6.5. Now it's 4.
4, really?
Oh, 4.5, sorry.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Patriots are favorite. All right, also some other big news we'll touch on before we get to the calls. Ladies first. Ronda Rousey is back with the WWE. Or not back, she's with the WWE.
Yeah.
She's back in
Kinda
the
back
combat
a little
sports world.
Uh-huh.
And she showed up apparently last night at a Royal Rumble, right? It didn't look like she participated. I only looked at a quick video. She came out, pointed at WrestleMania as if to say that's where I'll be. And that was that. So as far as participation, not much. As far as a pop for her, being involved in pro wrestling, people loved it. But then she clarified later on in some interviews with Brett Okamoto and Ramona Shelburne, I believe is her name, that she has signed a multi-year contract and she doesn't plan on just showing up to the big events like a Brock Lesnar and then disappearing. She's going to be active. So there you have it, folks.
Nice.
Any reaction there?
Yeah, the last part's what really caught me off guard because I thought that little Brock Lesnar role was probably something she could flourish in. The schedule at professional wrestling carries is brutal.
Crazy.
Okay? 4 pro wrestlers who have done this all their lives, let alone somebody who's coming from MMA, from the entertainment world. It seems like a lot to take on.
I don't think it'll be as active as the others, but
yeah,
I don't think it'll be what Brock
shows,
does. Yeah.
But she's got to do a lot of training, right?
Yeah.
And we've heard from guys like Rampage Jackson, from King Mo Lawal, who've grown up loving pro wrestling, how brutal that school can be and the good days and bad days that come along with it. I don't know. Anytime anybody brings up MMA to her, it seems like she doesn't want to talk about what happened there.
Right.
And that just doesn't seem like the mental state that you need to be in something like this. But whatever. If anybody's proven that they can get past some of these things, it's probably her, right?
Yeah, and that judo background has toughened up her body, for taking these falls. So it'll be different for sure. But I think she's got the body for it, you know what I mean, to take these falls. She's strong. She knows how to get thrown. She knows how to throw others. She can talk a good game. I think this is tailor-made for her, but you're right. I think with her popularity, she probably could have gotten away with just
showing up for the big ones.
Showing up for 4 times a year.
She's good friends with Shayna Baszler.
Raw,
she
whatever.
help her.
Right. So, but credit to her. She's going to try it. We'll see. We'll see how active she plans on being with it. I think it's good for her. I saw the interview where she was still not wanting to talk about MMA, and she kind of gets shaken up, like in her voice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, she really, really carries this thing. But regardless, she should be pretty damn proud of herself, man. Olympian, world champion in MMA, and now a superstar in WWE. You hang back and look at that. It's like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Don't be one of those persons that just has to win everything. Otherwise, it's just there's something to be ashamed of. I mean, a bronze medal in judo is pretty amazing.
Right.
She still won a world championship in judo, a world championship here, and so the expectations, man, it's like relax a little bit.
Her and Misha pretty much brought in the whole female demographic for MMA now.
Yeah.
And then there's women that love the sport, or not only that, are now training and are little girls or want to be fighters, because of her and what she's done for the sport. So.
One thing she did say was, when she was starting off in MMA, she was wondering, why aren't the females getting as much love as the males? What is it that they're doing wrong? And she used a lot of the components of pro wrestling to incorporate into her game, And as you can tell, it definitely worked out.
Smart.
Yeah.
What I think is going to be interesting is the reaction of other pro wrestlers to her. She's coming into something that now they're the ones that helped build this, right?
Right.
And she's probably going to be making more money than they are. How are they going to react to her? Is it, hey, welcome, Ronda, come get this spotlight that we've all worked very hard to get?
Right.
I don't know that everybody's going to be so chummy. That hasn't always been the case with the males. Females, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, she's the one
That'll
that
be a
actually
tough thing to
has
deal with too.
WrestleMania as the main event with the female. you never know. If she can propel it that way, great. But you're right. The females are going to be a little bit distant, I think. Some of them. Some may embrace, but I think some are going to be catty.
Great wrestlers, right? Collegiate wrestlers come into an MMA gym. Yeah. What kind of attitude do they carry? And then how do the mixed martial artists react to them coming into their world?
Right.
It's not always the smoothest transition.
Yeah. Johnny Hendricks and Jake showed up to the gym for their first time Rochalt. Those guys, those guys did not take a liking to them at all. It was bad.
Yeah, and it's a different world too. I mean, there's the acting side of the performing, and then there's the choreography part. Now, not a professional wrestler, Eric's not, but we both know people who've been in that business. Phil Friedman comes to mind. Yeah,
Phil.
But I do have experience in fight choreography and martial arts choreography and in acting. And I can tell you, the acting obviously it's a complete different skill that's going to be real hit or miss. I'm interested to see how that plays out, but I'm also interested to see how the choreography plays out, because even though she's an Olympic level athlete, there is a difference. It's kind of like I always akin it to coaching. And, just because someone's a great fighter doesn't make him the best coach. And we've seen this, right? Sometimes a guy who hasn't fought can make a good coach. It's weird how that works out. The same thing with choreography and that performance flow. Even when you're filming stuff for a movie and you're doing like short clips, you're working with the actors, you're doing quick choreographed clips. Even if they have a background in what you're choreographing, it's not as easy. They don't take on as easily as you'd think. So now you're not just doing it for a clip. You're doing it for a whole performance with acting. And like Go said, on this crazy schedule. So I am by no means a hater. As someone who rooted for Ken Shamrock because he had cage fighting experience back in the 90s, okay? Like, I'm not going to hate on Ronda, but I am interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Well, when she walked down the ramp, she went to the bottom. And I've seen other pro wrestlers do that. She walked to the bottom, and she paused. And I'm pretty sure she's thinking of what they've taught her, Right. And then she smiled and looked up, and then she got another pop, And then, of course, it was time to march on in and do her thing. Once she was inside, I'm sure that had to be nerve-wracking.
Right.
Yeah.
The point, all that, it didn't come off well. The handshake with Stephanie, still, so there's some work to be done. But still, there was a few things that you could tell she did, and she did okay. It reminds me of Daniel Cormier. Remember when he had, I think it was in Dallas, they had the hashtag press conference, and him and Jones, he was ushering him away, and then in the end he stood there and just remember threw his hands up and people were booing him. The same thing, man. He had gotten, I think, some advice from pro wrestlers, situations like that. What do you do? I thought he did pretty good, actually, when he did his. I don't know if you guys remember it. Yeah. Speaking of DC, how about that tangent?
Yeah, I like that. Good segue.
DC versus Stipe Miocic is signed.
He's got a terrible poker face, doesn't he?
They are the coaches. They are the coaches for The Ultimate Fighter Season 27, and then they will fight on July 7th for UFC's at UFC 226 for Stipe Miocic's heavyweight title. How about that?
Wow.
Well,
Anybody got a problem with that?
I think
no. Fuck no.
Me neither.
No.
Yeah, I'm all in.
Nope.
It does say goodbye to light heavyweight, don't you think?
That's what he told us.
I mean,
he's told us a lot of things which turned out to be the opposite before.
Eric, you know fighters very well. For him to change his life and put back on some muscle, some weight, and then have to come back this late in his career and learn how to lose all that again and go, I don't see that shit happening. That's the end of light heavyweight Daniel Cormier to me. But to see this matchup, I'm in. And if he gets the victory here, whoa, what does that do for his stats?
Well, if it is the end, does he relinquish his title?
I think so.
Yeah? That'll for sure tell us if it's the end, but who knows if he'll want to market it as champion versus champion.
They got to do that carrying in, but yeah, he's not going to defend that belt anymore.
And see, that's the thing. So am I really dumb because I didn't see the poker face coming. I thought he meant it, and I thought it was maybe not the best move to go to heavyweight initially. That's why I thought this was, as far as, I was actually having a conversation with our editor-in-chief about potential super fights coming up for some ideas, and to me, this was probably one of the more lower-ranking ones, sure enough, after I sent that email. What news breaks? This news breaks. But also, guys, am I kind of crazy for saying slow the horses? Because, again, I don't want to be the guy thumping the drum that said, okay, you guys want all the shows every week. That means we're going to have cards that are really top-heavy, thinned out, all the stuff we're all complaining, that the same people that love all the cards are also complaining about. Well, they're related. It's a symbiotic environment that this sport exists in. So if we are going to have our champions meet each other, we're going to have divisions held up. Granted, they're not very thick divisions, but that works two ways because, like you guys said, DC's not going back to light heavyweight. So now we're gonna have a very lackluster interim. Is this the real? But he's the real champ. But is he ever gonna come down? Kind of deal again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We're getting into one of those. And again, DC's timeline 2 to 3 fights. Well, I can guarantee you because this first fight's gonna be at heavyweight. You can scratch that third fight out. I think we're only going to get 2 more of the DC. He projected himself 2 to 3. I think we only get 2 now if he goes to heavyweight because yes, I agree he's not going back down to light heavyweight now.
I think we only get 1.
Maybe even 1.
Here's what I think
If he
happened.
beats Stipe, why not retire?
Behind the scenes, this is what I think happened. I think he said, "Look, I got 3 fights left in me, but if you want me to fight Stipe, just pay me what you would have paid me for those 3 fights because I'm only doing this shit one time."
That's a good call.
And I think that's what happened in the negotiations. I think they said, "Bet, all right, that sounds great." And I'm with you. Why even defend? I mean, shit, you've already done pretty much everything you can do in the sport.
Sense.
I just walk away.
But at the same time, don't commit to anything. So leave these doors open, which is exactly the Conor McGregor playbook. Let's say he fights Stipe, and let's just say he goes out there and catches him. Whoa, like I just won. I'm the greatest, and I didn't get injured. I had a safe camp. I didn't get injured. If at that time the next guy happens to be someone DC firmly thinks he can win, why not go in there and defend it one time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I don't think he'll get it. I think it'll be an immediate rematch.
And
I just don't see
who
how
would
that fight.
Who would that guy be is the question. You know what I mean? Like who's starting to charge up the rank? You can't give it to Ngannou right away. He just fought. Overeem, he just got disqualified by Ngannou. So maybe Verdum. So if he sits back and thinks, wait, I can get Verdum off his feet. He's just as old as me. And he won't threaten me with his jiu-jitsu. I know all the escapes. I know all the defenses, blah, blah, blah. There's a title fight. The other thing is, if by then John Jones has sorted his thing out and Dana White sits him down in the office and goes, see this big number here with all these zeros? This is what you would get if you fight Jones, a third time.
At heavyweight?
That I think would
Sure,
get him
fresh
out.
coat of paint.
Could
Heavyweight.
be at
They use it to
heavyweight.
sell it.
That could be the one spin that we all don't feel like we're watching the same shit again.
But again, he controls the situation at that point.
Options
First
open.
of all, he's got to get past Stipe.
Yeah.
But if he does, he then controls the situation. So you'll see DC he'll keep all of his options open.
I think that's the underlining move why he's moving up is Jones is probably coming back in. And we've ran this course enough times, and, now it's going to be probably him and Gustafsson.
Which a lot of people want to see.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
But yeah, he just doesn't want his career to hinge on Jones anymore. He's basically saying, I'm controlling what I'm doing.
And for Stipe, that works out because, again, he's been clamoring for maybe even longer because he's not very vocal about it for more money and all this. So UFC comes to the table. Stipe deserves it in the first place. I think we all agree on that, especially after his performance at 220. But now, on the UFC's part, they can kind of justify it by going, okay, well, we'll give you that money, but you're going to have to give us a super fight and a season of tough to kind of justify this up in the pay. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense for everybody. And that's why I don't want to sound like a hater because I'm glad that DC and Stipe, they deserve to get paid. I'm happy for them in that sense. I'm just saying, there could be looming effects outside of this. I'm
just glad that they're starting to promote Stipe a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This guy's been one of the best guys in the division for a long time and really has gotten no love even holding the title. Everybody thought a very small few.
Yeah, I thought I picked Ngannou.
I had Stipe.
Nice.
I've got to see a little bit more, but I think the guy's a freaking stud.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel bad for him though because come that night, I don't know that a lot of people are going to root for him.
Really?
You got that story of Daniel Cormier. I think a lot of people are just going to root for him just to see that happen.
Yeah,
man. I don't know. I love the guy. Every time, they're both great guys, but I've been around Stipe enough, and not only that, his camp, his coaches, they're just good people, people you want to root for, essentially, And he's a guy that I think the Ultimate Fighter show is going to showcase that a little bit more on what type of character he is, and he's a guy that I would want my kid to grow up to be like.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Stipe fan, although I will say his fans are ruthless, though. I will say that. You're not allowed to pick against him, apparently.
Did they hammer
his fans were more upset after, fight week than we were. Again, I gave Stipe credit going into it, but even people like myself who picked Stipe, I felt like we were more happier than Stipe than his fans. His fans were out for a vengeance online. No, honestly, aside from that though, no, I co-sign with 100% everything you said. Yeah. And I think it's true. That's why I felt so bad picking against the guy because my heart was rooting for him because you're right. As sitting champion before this Ngannou stuff, you can make the argument he hasn't been getting the respect that he deserves.
I agree.
Let's take this call from Oreo in Alberta, Canada. What's up, Oreo? How you doing? Oreo, you there?
He just dropped.
Looks like he just dropped.
Oh. Well, how about that?
That was weird.
Okay, let's take another break then. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. Still talking Ronda back with the WWE. And if you haven't heard, Stipe Miocic will defend his title against Daniel Cormier at UFC 226 on July 7th. It's International Fight Week. I imagine that'll be the main event unless old Connie Mack comes back, but that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. In fact, let's talk about what's going to happen to Connie Mack. The more and more I keep hearing, he's going to be stripped. We'll be right back.
Let's see. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
Barstool Radio is defining how you discuss sports and pop culture every day on SiriusXM Channel 85. Enjoy raw, unfiltered, and authentic shows daily from El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, KFC, Big Cat, Pat McAfee, Julie Stewart-Banks, Willie Colon, and more. By the Common Man, for the Common Man, it's Barstool Radio on Power 85 and on the SiriusXM app. That SiriusXM app also houses the MMA Junkie Radio Show, commercial-free and in HD quality if you miss all or portions of the show. Shout out to Kate Price in the Facebook chat, along with Matthew Allen. Shout out to McGregor. McGregor has nothing to do with the sport at all in the last few months, and that's the first person he wants to shout out is McGregor. So that's a big McGregor fan there. He also wants to shout out himself. He thinks Dustin's going to be Justin. And he's talking about Dustin Poirier, who's going to be a guest of ours here in about 10 minutes. Oh, excuse me, about 40 minutes. He's fighting Justin Gagey. Early lead on that one?
Dustin. Early lead. I think what Gagey went through, and even Alvarez, at that matter, need a little bit more time, I think, to decompress from all that. And
Gaethje went through a war with Johnson as well, and then Alvarez.
Yeah. Dustin is on a roll right now, and I think most of his problems were up here, and I think he's solved most of those. So early on, I'm going with him.
Early lean.
I think since I'm in line making mode, I would say minus 140 range for Dustin, the 130 range, and probably like a plus 110, plus 120 on Gaethje I could see, and then it getting tight come fight time.
Now, I guess you have to come clean. Gaethje has been training at Extreme Couture.
Yep.
But tell me the strengths on both guys.
You know what Gaethje brings to the table. The guy's a freaking warrior.
Great leg kicks, hard hits.
Yeah.
Some wrestling.
Great wrestling, and just I think overall pretty damn dynamic.
Really tough, too.
And I think Poirier made a great career decision moving back up to 55s. It looks fresher. He reminds me of just a sniper, man. The guy's hitting you from angles and things that he's doing has just been unbelievable in the last few fights, and been thoroughly impressed with what Poirier's been bringing to the table. Man, it's going to be a war. That's the easy fight of the night. I'm glad I'll be there for that one.
I will say this, and this goes through most facets of life, but anytime you do your best, and what I mean by that is if Poirier hits Justin with his best shot and Justin just smiles, there's something about that fucks with you.
Yeah.
And I could see a scenario where Dustin hits him with everything he has and Justin just gives him that big smile back. It's how he can react to that and how he can make adjustments to that.
Now, this is the main event, and I think Justin got away a little bit with, in now known as PFL, back then it was WSOF. In rounds 4 or 5, he tires, just like every other fighter tires. Right. You're supposed to tire. You've just been fighting for 15 minutes, right? Why wouldn't you tire? But the key could be if he's not in I think you could get away with that a little bit more in WSOF.
Right.
Just being tough. He likes to say, put my head down, let him hit the top of the head. But he needs, like Eric said, Dustin's very clean with a lot of his strikes. And so in rounds 4 or 5, if it hasn't been decided, hopefully Justin has, some really, really top-notch cardio then, because that's when Dustin can possibly hurt him.
Yeah, and if you watch the way Dustin
early
strikes,
on, I think Gaethje will be a beast.
He paces his striking very well, to where we almost call some of the jabs like even a changeup, to where he'll throw a little bit less speed on something and then come back with something harder, and really, really gets the hands moving, dictates the pace very well in the striking game, to where it looks like the volume is up and he might not be hitting with everything, to where later on in those rounds it's going to look better for him, in my opinion.
Yeah. He got his clock cleaned about 14 months ago by Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
But he's been back since then. He had one hell of a 2017.
Yeah.
The fight with Alvarez, which arguably you could say he won. The disqualification was wrong.
Right.
Then he had what was his next fight?
Let's pull it up.
Yeah. He had 2 more fights that he won that were great fights.
Pettis,
that's right.
Yeah.
He beat Pettis, and then he had one more. Was it Jim Miller?
Jim Miller was to open up the year. That was
Jim Miller was to open up the year. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I knew there was a third one in there. So he's rebounded nicely since then. Now, Gaethje just lost for the first time. The one thing I like about Gaethje, though, he expected it. It was Miller, right?
This win right here means more now. Bobby Green getting that win.
Yeah. Right.
Gaethje lost for the first time, and everybody says, how do you react to your first loss? We'll see. I've seen him at Extreme Couture. He looks like he's in great spirits.
Yeah.
And Justin, I think, prepared himself for that first loss a long time ago, when he always used to say, I know I'm going to lose. I know I'm reckless. That's my style. But look where it's gotten me. And he became a world champion, and he became a coach on Tough. And now he's fighting main events, for crying out loud. And Glendale, Arizona is pretty much a home game for him.
For sure.
So he'll have that going for him. I mean, this fight's going to be razor close, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Ghost.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at Dustin's record, this is a who's who of mixed martial arts. He's never had a night off. He's fought Max Holloway. He's fought the Korean Zombie.
He beat him here at Mandalay Bay.
Swanson, Eric Koch, who we were just talking about, Diego Brandao, Akira Corsani, Conor McGregor, Carlos Diego Ferreira, Yancy Medeiros, Joseph Duffy. These are all guys that Bobby Green, Michael Johnson, Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, like
He's one of those guys where it's like you want to talk about the middleweight division in boxing in the late 70s and early 80s. Like, he's one of those guys for MMA, right? Like, you know, even if you don't know boxing or that division in that time, you can mention names like Duran or Leonard, and people are going to know who you're talking about. Poirier is one of those names because of the fights he puts on, and like Goz just pointed out, who he puts him on against. But this fight actually reminds me of a fight that took place, one of you guys mentioned it this last weekend, with one of those names, Bobby Green versus Eric Koch. It reminds me of a similar dynamic, not just because of the southpaw and Koch versus Poirier,
Right.
but then you have Green, his ability, you know, wrestling, boxing, but his ability to get guys to fight his fight. And that's the
Right.
way I kind of see this one going with Gaethje, you know, that being his ability and that being, you know, Dustin's traditional foil. So it's going to be a real interesting match, see how that plays.
Tim Crater guy, right? Crowder? Tim Crater guy?
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in
Remember his
Yeah,
fight with
yes.
Nate Quarry?
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
Oh, man.
Is that a good one? I forgot it.
Dude,
Old school.
just
yeah.
rock them, sock.
Dude,
They
nice.
hit each
Crater-
other with everything they had. They
Crater
wouldn't go down.
Crater and Corey.
And Nate
Underrated.
Quarry, yeah.
I'll have
Underrated.
to check that out. All right, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. Like I stated earlier, Dustin Poirier will join us halfway through the second hour. So before then, we can continue talking news, and we will, and we still got to put to bed UFC Fight Night. Excuse me, UFC on Fox 27 in Charlotte, as well as talk a little bit about Bellator 193, which also took place the day before. Lorenz Larkin back in the win column, and how about the Junkie Radio reverse curse? Now up to 59-14. Thank you to Lorenz Larkin. So lots to talk about. And again, that number to call in is 866-522-2846. Stay close. We'll be right back. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on SiriusXM Rush 93 with Eric Nicksick in the house. we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Let's jump to some calls, and then we'll come back and talk about the other results that happened over the weekend. So we'll start off with Brian in Boston. What's up, Brian? How you doing?
Hey, guys. Two thoughts. I thought Dominic Cruz was the best he's ever been Saturday night. When he first jumped into the booth, I wasn't a huge fan. No, I thought he sort of jumped on the other guys a lot and cut the guys off. But I thought he was spot on Saturday night. For me, he turned a corner.
Huh.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you because when I first started listening to him, I felt like he ran over everybody on the commentary for a lot of that. But, man, like, the guy has such a good eye for the sport. His fight IQ is unreal. Like, you know, just picking up things from him a lot, you know, just by listening to his commentary for sure.
Yeah, I got to second that with Eric. As you know, again, someone else who watches tape. Like it almost feels like I'm almost glad when I get a guy like Brian Stan or Cruz on the tape study because they're going to point out stuff that maybe you're missing or not aware of. But you know, it's kind of funny. I'm glad you brought this up, Brian, because I don't know what you guys saw online and what you guys saw or felt, but I saw a lot of chatter going the other way. People didn't like this Cruz performance, and even me, as someone who's been kind of a staunch Cruz defender, I'm a little bit of a homer for Cruz for many reasons. But so my view's a little pitched. So I like him more than the average Joe, and I admit that. But I will say, there were certain slip-ups. Like people were criticizing the underhook, and almost that now instead of talking about it too much, he almost plays off it. But I almost feels like he plays off it in the wrong way, where it's like, don't worry about what they're criticizing you, Cruz. Explain the positions. Like you explain it well. Don't get in your head. And I felt like he got in his head about some things.
Yeah, I almost feel like he can kind of slow it down a little bit because it's almost like if you're cornering a fight, let's say per se, and it's too much at times. It's too much at times. Like, all right, you know, and let Anik talk a little bit too here, but everything he says is freaking spot on.
Yeah.
You know the one thing that I noticed this weekend that I hadn't noticed before, I don't know if you guys have, but of that rotation, when you get Cormier, when you get Felder, Dominic, even Brian Stan, Dominic's the one guy that never goes in and does the post-fight interviews. And I've often wondered why not. Why they've chosen not to do that, because all the other guys have.
Yeah.
It may just be his preference.
Maybe.
Could be that they asked him and he declined.
I think that might come from maybe and again, I don't want to bring the acting side of it, but, you know, for example, it's the comfortability in the acting side, because one of the consistent things that I got to imagine that he's getting notes on every time, because they get notes every time they do this, is he swallows his own words. It's something that I've had acting teachers get on me, is swallow your own words, and that's a psychological thing where a lot of times you're not comfortable in punctuating your point or something, so if you're not as confident in something, you'll kind of, we all do it, you'll say it a little softer, and you'll notice Cruz, he's really confident in the stuff that he knows, because he knows it better than most people on the planet, right? But when it comes to the stuff that DC does so naturally, the non-technical stuff, just the exclamatory, yes, he almost goes, yeah, and you can hear almost like, it's almost like comical where he goes, yeah, he's really throwing fire out there, like, and like he'll try to play, like, you'll hear him try to add on, Rogan's exclamatory talk, and you'll hear him kind of fade off, and I think that's the part. And I hate to criticize the guy, but I think that's the part that we're seeing Cruz that maybe he needs to develop more, is that confidence, and the other things you guys are talking about. I think those things will start to hit too. I don't know.
I think DC. Well, he's an active fighter, and whereas somebody that says DC, man, I'd love to fight you, I think DC can let it roll. Whereas Dominic would go, oh yeah, you want something? It seems like he takes it too personal, and maybe because there's always like an alpha male guy fighting, it just may not be the right thing. The only other thing I can think of, and that's me thinking outside the box, is maybe the injuries he gets. Maybe he just doesn't want to go up and down the steps. I mean, but the last one he got, I believe, was an elbow injury, so that shouldn't keep him from being able to go in and out.
I like your first point, because
he could just not be comfortable with it.
No, I like your first point, George. I actually think you nailed it, because when you said that, it reminded me. I don't know if it was Jimmy Rivera or Bantamweight, but someone said something, and on the commentary where it was just it was a soul just Anakin Cruz, like we had this last weekend. He goes, if he's talking about me, he better wait his turn, young man. And he went about 3 sentences, not just one. He went 3 sentences deep, and Anik had to do an uncomfortable segue.
That might be a good point. Yeah.
Well, Hardy's, we might as well call him retired, right? Stan was retired when he was doing it.
Right.
DC, I think, just has that ability to
let it roll.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
That'd be a good fight, young man, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Cruz is a little bit just more like on edge, I guess, about what he.
For sure.
And who were the other guys?
Felder's done it.
Felder, he's active.
He's active. He's
But he
interview
seems to be
lightweights,
chill, you know.
Right. Or they might not
who
have
knows?
Felder go in and interview Poirier and Gaethje or something like that. you
yeah,
know?
maybe that too.
They could always switch off, right? If
Yeah.
had anything
For
to do
sure.
with 25, 35, or 45.
Yeah. But I'm with you, Brian. Like I feel like this was probably one of his better ones that I didn't have to watch it on mute.
I'm glad he said that because I completely forgot Brian was even on the card.
Brian, did you go to the card in Boston?
No, man. I took a look at some of the tickets, and the nosebleeds were like $300. And I've been to a couple boxing matches at the Boston Garden, and when you're sitting way up, it's just not worth it. But
what a great city, man! I had a great time out there. I loved it.
I wish I think next time I'm just going to drop the dough, because I was kind of watching all the guys that were there go back and forth on Facebook, and I was like, oh shit, I should have done it because it looked like a good time. Do I have a second for a second point?
Sure.
Wait, does that have to do with Brady and the Patriots? Because we're running low on
I'll-
time if that's the case.
I'll handle that next Monday. Don't need to do that now.
Go ahead.
So I think as I'm about to say this, I'm probably going to contradict myself halfway through, but I want to talk about Connor Gillespie a little bit and the way he sort of turned that back around on John Anik. Like John Anik was being a dick for trying to get him to promote. And I sound like a broken record, but I say it all the time. Like this weekend, I think between Bellator and UFC, there had to be 16 fights, give or take, which means 32 fighters. And these guys don't understand that they need to stand out. Somehow this guy has to capture my attention as I drive to work on Monday and sort of recap my weekend. Now, the part where I contradict myself is the fact that he was kind of a dick to John Anik has
Kind of made it stand out for you.
Yeah, it's what? Even though he didn't call somebody out, this guy, out of all other people, was staying with me. So I don't really know, what's my point?
Right.
Should he have called somebody out? But he somehow stayed in my memory. And they don't have to jump to the roof. And they don't have to be Colby Covington and say crazy shit or be a Chael Sonnen or Conor McGregor. But just put a name out there and get the Jamoke like me to think about, the next fight. Or praise a guy. Say, you know what? I love this guy's skill set. I like to test myself. Versus, when you looked at John Anik, like John Anik was being a dick. I'm like, dude, he's trying to help you.
Okay, thanks for the call, Brian. And
Yeah,
I missed it, but who's he talking about?
At the end of
Gillespie.
Gillespie, yeah.
At the end of the day, he's calling into a show about him. So obviously, he did register.
Yeah,
at some
yeah,
point.
I mean-
maybe it's like when there's a girl and you don't give her attention because you want the reverse. I
Right.
don't know. Maybe he did trick us.
And maybe for me, just as a fan, I understand what he's saying. But as a coach, like he's the one that stood out to me the most, top to bottom on the entire card. To me, Gillespie was.
Yeah, you pointed that out earlier.
I thought he was.
But because of his performance, or also the way he
didn't even. I don't care. I could have turned it off from that on. And didn't care what he said from the moment he walked in to his preparation and the way he fought that fight. I was thoroughly impressed with him because I've seen him fight 2 times in a row now. I was there live in
Brazil,
Pittsburgh.
right?
I saw him in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh?
Yeah, and maybe because he walked out to Johnny Cash, I was pretty, I was like, oh, all right, this guy's legit.
And it's funny too because sometimes it just takes a little thing outside of the fighting, even a little thing like Brian was saying to get you to catch on to a fighter, right? Like you said, being a dick to John Anik. I mean, heck, Brian from Boston, I already liked him as a caller, but his strong regional slur that he just used made upped him in my own caller rankings. There for what that's worth. Yeah. It's just a little. It could be the most randomest thing that gets you points in your book.
Yeah.
One thing I like James Vick when he was on New York was he in his call out he said he wanted to fight in Texas. So if you don't want to call someone out, at least say, hey, UFC, I know you're headed this to this place.
I can sell.
Put me on there. I'd love to fight. I mean, I don't know. There's just some things you can do out there if you don't want to go down the call out road. Chael Sonnen says always call out the champ. Don't call out contenders just above you. Always shoot for the top. I don't know if I agree with him. I mean, I understand what his positioning is because at some point maybe the call out will be played over when it is your time to fight the champion. But
well, a good example is Kevin. Kevin Lee? We all know Kevin very well. Actually, we had a pretty good conversation about that on Thursday at the gym, and we're just sitting there kind of laughing it up about a lot of Kevin's antics, and the things he does, and it's worked well for him. He
was calling out Sage Northcutt, and then all of a sudden he just started calling out everybody. You know what I mean? He got more comfortable with it, and now he's calling out Nate Diaz.
Right.
And he's also have to perform, right?
That's true.
Yes, and Kevin has been able to perform as well.
Correct.
What were you going to say, Dan?
He's backed it up.
That's true. No, I was going to say, and he's one of the more serious names of all that fodder that was thrown Nate Diaz's way. He's actually one of the more serious names you would take out of that crop.
Him and Alvarez.
Yep, and more to the point of the big call-outs and maybe going smaller. I agree too. Look at, I think Sam Alvey is a great example. He's had maybe a rougher stretch in his last few fights, but in that run that he put together, if you remember, he had a name ready every name, but he would do regional names. He would call out. He wouldn't shoot for the stars. He would call out for reasonable names he could get. That way, it's a matchup that he can have a stylistic edge on, and it'd be something like you said. It'd be like, okay, well, European guy needs a matchup in a European card. We're close in the rankings. I'm going to call that guy out, and matchmakers like, oh, you're doing my job for me, all right?
Yeah.
And
he
so there's that approach
and he
too.
fought frequently too.
Yeah, there you go. More money.
He fights a lot.
A little bit of say in your career, and he's not a big McGregor-like guy. And to have say in your career, and make a little extra money just by a post-fight speech, something you harp on all the time. Shoot,
yeah,
it's hard to argue.
Oreo in Alberta, Canada. What's up, man?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. Sorry before my phone got dropped. So, yeah.
We accept your apology.
I just had a quick question for Eric. I wanted to know how Uriah Hall is doing and if he's going to be fighting soon.
He's doing much better. When we got back home, he went to numerous doctors on some of his gastric stuff. I know he had a couple other allergy things he went and did. But he seems to be better. He actually went out to London right now, go for some downtime. But I'll tell you what, man, that was one of the scariest things I've ever been a part of or I've ever seen. To kind of give you the quick version, we had a pound left with an hour to go. He was in the tub, no problems. Hopped in, was sweating good. We got the weight off, and as we were getting dressed to put the Reebok gear on, he had a small little episode, which was what the doctors told me was more of like a body cramp, which I identified it looked like a seizure to me, and but it was more of like a full body cramp. And then he came out of it, and we started to walk down the hallway to go get on the scale, and that's when the elevator doors opened, and he literally collapsed right there. So. We went from having normal conversation. I mean, it was a weight cut. It sucked. It wasn't the worst one I've ever seen. And to see him go from where he was to where he ended up in a short amount of time led me to believe there was something more going on with him than we knew. And mind you, we don't have he's not hooked up to leads and EKG. We don't have heart monitors on him. So, we don't know where we're pushing other than the fact of how you feel. And you feel like shit cutting weight, So it was probably the worst thing I've ever seen or been a part of. There was a part of me there where I didn't know if this guy was going to make it out, honest to God. So it sucked. He was in and out of consciousness for the first 4.5 hours in the hospital. They double bore IV'd him. They got him back to where he was able to talk and hang out, and then they kept him overnight because his EKG was all off, and that's partly because of, I think, you're stripping your body full of the sodium, potassium, magnesium, things that make your heart fire. So they kept him overnight, and when he got out of the hospital, I was just glad the guy was freaking alive. So I appreciate you asking, man, because it was one of the worst things I've ever been a part of.
Also, Oreo, if I may, Dana White put out a quote that he had heard from people in the PI that he just maybe doesn't take it as serious. And now, we have the privilege of being able to go into your gym.
Yeah.
When we come out of it, we don't say much about what we see and hear, okay? I think that's a respect thing. But the one thing I can tell you is when I go in there, Uriah's almost always there. He's rarely not there. So I'm thinking, when is he at the UFC PI that they got to know him that well, where they would kind of be able to funnel that information to Dana White?
I couldn't even.
He's kind of one of those guys that, like Go says, like Ray Cepho, like the perfect attendance guys, right?
Yeah, and when do we ever walk out going, he was really sandbagging it today? Like Uriah goes all out.
Yeah, he was just there the other day when I saw him. Too.
Yeah, and it's tough, especially when your employer is the first one to bag on you. And I think what really kind of hurt me was, this guy almost died for your organization. I'm dead serious. Like, he did not feel like he even had a heartbeat. His pulse was thready. He was unconscious and unresponsive. And all the while, he's trying to make it down that fucking elevator to weigh in for this guy. And all he kept saying is, I've never missed weight. I've never missed weight. you know, and then for you to go on and bash your guy without knowing all the facts, without hearing the story, without knowing what happened. Maybe he did, maybe he caught wind of some of the things. But I was at the PI with him Tuesdays and Thursdays every morning, training, 9 o'clock in the morning. I was there with him. You know, he was in that weight and strength and condition with Bo Sandoval. And I talked to Bo every day. Bo, how'd it go? How was the strength and conditioning? It was great. This was one of the best camps I've ever seen out of this guy. You know, and we were teed up to go and have a good performance. And something went wrong. I don't know what. Was it health related? Possibly. Was there something more going? Did we oversee something or overlook something? Possibly. I don't know. But at
like
the end of the
another
day,
stressor in his
could have
personal
been.
life or
I don't know. I really don't know. All I can tell you is throughout the camp, he complained about he was feeling bloated, like something was wrong inside, and he would go to that quite a bit.
Right. He's been open about that himself.
Correct.
Well,
and we would change things with the diet, or you look at something different. Maybe we switch from turkey to, instead of red meat or this or that. And so we were trying to get it fixed, whatever it was, and nothing really came to light that worried us that much. And something happened within 45 minutes. It wasn't, man, this guy's not going to make weight. Mick Maynard called us with an hour left and goes, I need a picture with him on the scale. He was at 187, and Mick gives me the big thumb. Like, dude, great, awesome, no problem. In Pittsburgh, we had 2.2 to go with an hour left. And that was a tough cut, and we made it, and it was no problem. So something happened along that line with his anatomy, with his chemistry, and that shut him down. Just said no more.
And that's usually what happens when the fighters, when they miss for the first time, the ones that have made weight all the time. It's usually what could be an episode like that.
Yeah, and I mean,
I think Khabib, he gets a lot of flack. I think he's only missed the one time. It's just that one time was a pretty serious thing.
And you look at it this way: you fucked with the man's money, that's it. And Uriah was upset. He's like, man, I thought me and Dana were friends. Like, yeah, maybe, but you fuck with that dude's money, So don't get all upset about it, thinking you guys are all chummy, So at the end of the day, none of us get paid. It was 8-week camp, but my guy's alive, and the honest to God truth, I didn't know if he was gonna make it out. That's how bad it looked. Yeah.
Wow.
You saw what Paige wrote. Paige was in the hallway.
Right.
She was damn near in tears. Danny Castillo, Joey Rodriguez, those guys helped get ice on this guy. I mean, it was a critical incident right away. Don't call the doctor, call the paramedics. Like, this dude needs help right now. That's where we went.
Speaking of Paige in tears, she was in tears this weekend as well. She got engaged. So congratulations to Paige. Oreo?
Oh, yeah, thanks, guys. I just wanted to check out, see if he's okay, because Uriah is one of my favorite fighters, and I really like watching that guy fight, and I just hope he gets back in the cage very soon, and you guys make a run for that title.
I appreciate that, man. He's one of the greater guys you're ever going to meet, and it's an honor to work with him. And I promise you this, man, we'll get back on track, and we'll come get that. We'll go get some wins for sure.
Thanks, Oreo, for the call. One more, Showtime in Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's yo time.
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
What's going on? Man, had to call in, man. You guys were talking about the Green Coach fight, man. That was a hell of a fight. It's so funny when Green fights. It's almost like, how a snake, like a cobra, kind of jumps up and flexes his back. It's funny, how you do that little stance where he put his shoulders and poke his chest out. Man, I was just sitting there laughing, man, every time he did that, man. That guy's tough as shit, man.
He is tough.
Both of those guys tough, man.
Yeah.
Tough.
I think that was what swayed me to actually put Bobby Green in my parlay, was that second and third round, because that motherfucker ain't going away. He is not going away, dude.
I told George I have problems betting on him just because there are times where he has those lapses.
Yeah.
But there was a prop bet that said, is he going to be a nightmare for his opponent all day?
All day.
I'll bet that all day.
Lay it on it. Fight of the night candidate all the time.
Who were you rooting for? Showtime?
Sorry.
You know what? Surprisingly, I took the other guy. Surprisingly, but you know what? When I bet my money on a guy and he fight and he give it all he has, I can lose. I'm okay. I hate when you bet your money on a guy and he just lay on the ground and it seems like he don't give it his all. I played college sports, so I know how it is when you give it your all, and the guy just was better that day.
Yep.
You know, and I can accept losing my money like that.
Yep.
You know, I bet it against Green because I was kind of torn of how the fight may play out, but man, it was a hell of a fight. But man, what about Jacare, man? I was wondering if he was gonna come back. You know, if his last fight was he hurt with his last fight? I heard him saying that he was hurt because he just didn't look like himself, man, when he fought Whitaker, man. So was that what they were saying? Did he had an injury that he really just showed up to fight with? Is that what they were talking about in the pre-fight show?
I'm not too sure, but I can tell you this. I think most of these guys are always banged up getting in.
Yeah.
You know, for the most part. Man, I was just wondering how long it was going to take his ass to get to the cage. Holy shit. He was fucking
taking it
feeling
in.
it. Feeling
You got to give him a long-ass song like Stairway to Heaven or something.
Fucking hit repeat. Yeah, Freebird. He walks out the Freebird.
And it's funny. He walks out to like the default song.
Or the long version of Thriller.
Yeah. He walks out of that default song that a lot of the guys will come out to, especially in Brazil. If they don't have a song, they'll play that same song.
Right.
So it's hilarious. Like you'll hear a bunch of guys come out to that song, but that's actually Jacare's song. Sorry, go ahead, Showtime.
It's funny as hell how he has this little shimmy, like kind of remind me of the Ray Lewis dance that he's doing when he's coming out, you know, and he's smiling. And man, I love that guy, man. I love Jacare, man. He's a hell of a fighter.
I thought he was done, man. I thought Showtime was gonna. Sorry, I thought Jacare was gonna lose. I thought Jacare was gonna experience that downfall. You know, where you get to a certain age, a couple guys get you, and you just don't ever get a whiff of that title like you wanted to. But there he is, right back at it. Could be fighting for a world title, maybe within a fight or two.
You talk about doing things for people to remember you. How many people, whether you're rooting for him or not, when he walks out or doing this in the building?
Or he walks up those stairs and does the gator walk.
Oh, it's great. I love that. I love that.
Were you there when he used to go to Extreme Couture?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
It's amazing some of the people that went through there.
Yeah.
I remember one day just seeing Kimbo and Jacare and Mario Sperry and, you know, in addition to all the regulars. But
got to roll with Kimbo. When he first came in.
Some of those days just are stuck in your head, right? You know,
you forget about some of those though. Like when you bring them up and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, rolling with Gabe Gonzaga and guys that like just, you know, you learn so much in that amount of time, and you forget like to take it all in at times. But yeah, Jacare would come in and was.
Sperry was the prep Randy for Gonzaga, right? I
believe so.
Yeah. And Gonzaga was the fight where he broke his forearm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Checked the kick or blocked the kick off the arm. Yeah.
That was my number one in the top 5 title defenses was Randy versus Gonzaga because just he wasn't supposed to win that fight.
Yeah,
you know, for a lot of people.
Well, Gonzaga ended up coming and training with us after that fight, and I remember rolling with Gonzaga.
That's right.
Going like, holy shit, and then something clicked.
Like a gorilla.
I go, holy shit, Randy's fucking good, because Randy was, you know, mopping the ceiling with him.
Right, and you know, Gonzaga fought Randy because he upset Krokop.
Correct.
Yeah. Krokop, it was basically like
Krokop's fight.
Krokop, look, we want to give you this automatic title, but let's just tee you up. Let's just tee up Gonzaga to you, and then you'll fight Randy, and the next thing you know, Gonzaga blasted him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, Showtime?
Yeah, hey, man, I want the junkies to go back to Extreme Couture too, man. We had a good time when we came there.
Oh, please come through, man. Anytime. You guys are always welcome. And you don't even have to come in with these guys. I don't care. If you're in town or you want to come through, bro, hit us up. Just let me know, and we'll make you. You know, we'll get you in there.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
good show, man. Good stuff as always, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we got to get to Dustin Poirier in just a bit. Go ahead. Something's on the tip of your tongue.
I wanted to bring up one topic to see where you guys lie on this. Hey, you didn't watch it, but Randa Marcos in her post-fight speech, she gave a shout out to her physical therapy, and she said, a lot of people don't know this, but I came into this fight with a torn ACL, and I can't remember what else she said. Yeah. And somebody had made the comment, I think I want to say it was Gally from Toronto, and he said, why is it that she can make that comment and nobody say anything, but when Usman says I came in at 30%, everybody looks at it and says, oh, that's bullshit, you shouldn't be saying those type of things. I told him, I think because Randa told us what the issue was, we can already kind of relate to what was going on in her life. As where with Usman, we don't know what 30% was. Did you have diarrhea before the fight? I don't know what 30%
the double standard.
Means. Yeah, but anyways, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Is
it the same thing? Because technically it's two fighters that are saying,
I like
hey,
that
I wasn't
she's
100%.
getting specific like you said. Because right away you can go, oh, wow. I know a lot of athletes that have exited the game and not been able to continue, and yet this young lady was able to go through whole camp and fight. So maybe right away your mind is getting a little bit of the satisfaction to to the query.
Right.
How did she do it, or how serious was this? Usman, I think. See, Randa also didn't talk up. Wait till you see this.
Right.
I'm next. They're all running for me. And so Usman did. You know what I mean? I'm the next champ. They're all declining. They're all scared. This, that, whatever.
Is it the
so he's already kind of taking. He's already taking a little bit of the heel roll. And then there at the event, he's getting booed. And then all of a sudden say, and on top of that, 30%. With some people, it's not going to sit well.
Some people are saying neither one of them got to finish, right? So the only thing I can think of is she just shed more light on what the issue was.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, presentation, right? It's presentation over everything. He slams the card down like a trump card, but doesn't explain it. People are like, "What was that about?"
Right.
Especially coming after a main event opener slot on a Fox card, and you just got booed. There's so many different factors there. But then there's also that theory. I don't know if you guys have heard. I think Chael articulates it pretty well. But this theory of like kind of unwritten sports code where like you don't say that kind of stuff after. It's almost like it's almost akin to making an excuse why you lost. You can almost take that in a victory too. It almost kind of like shits on the guy for you just beat like, oh, I just beat him when I was sick, and
definitely with the delivery and how you handle it.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're gonna take this break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Dustin Poirier, the Diamond. He's got a fight set against Justin Gaethje on April 14th. It's at UFC on Fox 29. It's in Glendale, Arizona. So it's a home game for Justin Gaethje. He's from Arizona. He wrestled in Northern Colorado, but he's got roots in, what are they, the Cactus State? What's Arizona?
Sounds right.
Yeah, the dirt state?
Scorpion State?
Hottest
the extreme heat state? I don't know. We'll have to find out what their
Sun Devils,
their
hyperthermia
state motto is. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. Eric Nicksick in the house.
It's the big That would be cool.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
The best of SiriusXM Super Bowl coverage is all on one channel, Super Bowl 52 on radio channel 145. Hear the news and interviews with athletes and entertainers from all of SiriusXM's channels, broadcasting from the Mall of America. Super Bowl 52 radio launches today at 11 a.m. Eastern on channel 145. So actively, it is going on right now. Again, it's channel 145. Talks more Super Bowl. Patriots versus the Eagles. Patriots 4.5 favorites here at the Mandalay Bay. All right, our next guest, 22-5 overall. He's working off 6 wins in his last 8 fights. You might as well say 7 in his last 8 because that Alvarez fight, we all know about it. I don't want to piss him off, though. We'll just skip that fight. We won't talk about it much. We'll talk about the Justin Gaethje fight, however. He's got that coming up. It's UFC on Fox 29, and it all goes down on April 14th in Arizona. Joining us now is the Diamond, Dustin Poirier. What's up, Dustin? How you doing?
Good, man. What's going on, guys?
Not much, man. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. Got a house full of
good.
people here for you. Goes Eric Nicksick from Extreme Couture and Dan Tom, our latest addition. We've been salivating at this matchup. You versus Justin Gaethje. Man, that's just add another one to your resume, bro. You fought a lot of killers, and here this is going to be another great fight.
Dude, like I told you time after time, this is the kind of fight that I'm motivated for, you know. Not that I'm not motivated for other fights, but this is exciting. Every morning I wake up, I want to push myself. I want to do more and be the most prepared I can, especially, 5 rounds with a guy like this. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, it sure is. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, the 5 rounds. We're not giving our full predictions just yet, but we were calling it early leans, and one of the things I was thinking could make a difference. Gaethje, all respect in the world to him, former world champion, and of course he's had some exciting fights in the UFC, but that 4th and 5th round, I know he's got to have his cardio up to tune, kind of like how yours is, because I think that's where the difference may lie.
Yeah, we'll see, man. He throws a lot of power shots, and with that, it's use a lot of energy. If you throw everything into every shot and bite down. But, that being said, he's been in more 4th, 5th rounds than I have in my career. So I'm sure he's going to be ready.
Yeah, no doubt. And, another thing that I noted was you just celebrated your 29th birthday about 10 days ago. And It's funny because 30 can be one of those key numbers for a lot of fighters, as far as, like, some will feel like, oh, maybe it's the second half of their career, or maybe that's when their athletic peak tends to decline or whatever. You've had so many fights. I think this will be 22 or 23 or something like that between WEC and UFC. 21 alone you've already had in the UFC, and you have a who's list here. But how are you feeling? And at 29 overall,
I feel great, man. I'm aging like fine wine over here. I don't know if you've seen the last few fights, but I'm getting better every fight, and I'm having fun, man. Everybody has a different athletic peak and a different athletic prime, and I feel like just last year I've started to kind of cross the line into mine. And I'm not just talking about, as a fighter's prime. Athletics is one thing, but just mentally and I'm just comfortable with this whole game and everything, and I'm just excited for the future, bro.
I think what happens too is, because we've talked to you pretty much before and after every fight, and granted, most of the time we're talking about you whooping someone's ass. A couple times you dropped a fight, we still felt like you were young. At 29, do you still feel young? And will you be? Do you think a lot? Sometimes in the lightweight, the guys start to get in their early 30s, and they just, when they talk to us, they start to feel like they're old, and there's a decline. I guess that's why I bring it up. Like, you may still have 3 good prime years left, unless maybe you have more.
I kind of have I still feel great. I feel better than I've ever felt, honestly. But in my head, I kind of have a number that sticks out. I think 35, it would be great to fight until I'm 35, But after that, I don't really see anything after that. As of right now, maybe I'll hit 34 and feel incredible. But the goal in my head is to become a world champion and retire at 35. But this is the year, 2018 is the year I'm going to be the world champion.
And Dustin's on one of those trajectories where by 30. I mean, this guy's going to have more than 30 fights in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Bisping and all those other guys, GSP, Frank Mir, they're in the high 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I know Cerrone will obviously, because he's just so active, he'll eclipse it. But Poirier, just because of his age and his status in the company, I just know clearly he's going to eclipse that number.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin Poirier.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm excited, man.
Our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. All right, Goes, what do you have for the Diamond?
Dustin, I want to take you back a little bit to UFC 125. That was your first UFC fight. And we've been talking about all the guys that you've fought on your record and what you've accomplished in the sport. We've basically on this show been able to watch you grow up in front of our eyes. And my question is, that night, the main event was Frankie Edgar, Gray Maynard, and this is your first UFC card. I'm sure at some point maybe you looked around at the guys in the room, in the locker room, and said, holy shit, that's Frankie Edgar, that's Gray Maynard. And now you're in a position where fighters are saying that about you. And they're looking at you like, I could learn a lot from this guy. Do you remember an exact point in your career where you felt that switch from being that up-and-coming guy to now becoming the veteran guy that walks into a locker room and people look up to?
Not so much noticing other people, or just acknowledging the respect from young fighters when I walk into the room, but just as myself, I just feel comfortable. I feel like it's where I belong. I know what's happening this, fight week. I know the process the UFC uses all week, and just I'm comfortable with the process. And that there, when I started being comfortable, walking into open workouts, getting on the mic and talking comfortably and stuff like that, I say, okay, I've turned a corner in my career, and this is a stage I belong on.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's very easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but bringing back to UFC 125, I mean, I had 2 fights in the WEC before that. But, I mean, before that, I was a young kid from Lafayette, Louisiana. I've been on a plane one time in my life, So to see these guys that I've been watching for years, because I'm a longtime fan of the sport, to see, Jeremy Stevens and Frankie Edgar and Mike Brown on the card and guys like that, it was incredible. It was surreal.
Gotcha. Now, in this sport, it's very easy to forecast your future, but it doesn't always play out that way. And so a guy like you that's in the position that you're in, what has the brass told you? Like when you're setting up this fight, what do they say comes out of a victory here over Justin Gaethje?
Never in my career have I sat down with Sean or Dana and said, this is what's going to happen after you win this fight. It's always, this is the fight, prepare for this fight, and then, when it's all said and done, when the smoke clears, we'll assess everything and move on. So that's all I'm focused on. This guy's another former world champion. That's 3 former world champions I've fought in a row in my last 3 fights. And that's all I'm focused on. One of two things are going to happen with this guy. Either he's going to start doubting himself, his first loss, his first time getting finished, or he's going to be motivated to be the best he can be when he comes back. And I'm prepared for either. I'm expecting Justin to go back to the drawing board, maybe use less of his brawling style, maybe use some of the wrestling people forgot he has, and try to become a more complete fighter. So I'm preparing for the best guy ever. Defeat motivates a lot of guys, and this might be one of the guys that does that too.
Dan Tom, what do you have for Dustin?
Dustin, we were looking at your resume, and I almost, it reminds me of like the middleweight division of boxing in the early 1980s. Leonard, Duran, all these guys. And I think when we look back at our sport, you're definitely going to be one of those names if you look at your, not just resume, but the fights that you put on. Just curious, do you draw any inspiration from any of the boxers ever, today or from back then?
There's a saying that's kind of come up a few times this week that I've been talking to people about. A couple of my guys, my buddies here in Lafayette, Louisiana, I helped them get ready for fights. And this last weekend we had 2 different events at 2 different casinos, and we had some guys win, we had some guys lose. But, nowadays with boxing, just with everything, that perfect 30-0, 40-0 record is amazing, and that's incredible to do. But back in the day, in boxing, people used to say you weren't ready to challenge for a title until you got beat, until you went through the fire. And that's just kind of something I live by, becoming a better fighter and growing around guys like Robbie Lawler and guys who've witnessed defeat over and over again, but just never lost that drive and that passion, and they stayed true to the course. and became world champions. That's the kind of fighters I really, really look up to. Like Bisping, guys who've had defeats and stumbled a bunch of times and just didn't listen to the critics and came back and became world champions. And I just really feel like in my heart, that's what I'm going to do. I've tasted defeat in some big fights, and I've always built myself back up. I'm back in the top 5 of this division. I've been here before. I fell down, and now I'm back, man. And I really feel like I'm going to reach the top.
I like that Bisping comparison, Dustin, not just for the the aforementioned names and stuff and in comparable ways you guys compare that way, but talking about something you talked about earlier, how is Gaethje going to bounce back when you have these defeats? And you've had all these tests throughout your career. There's a lot of those, but if you just look back at your past 4 fights, I mean, you got caught by Michael Johnson, where fighters could get in their own head or whatnot. You came back and you gave us one of the best fights of the year with Jim Miller, an underrated fight. And you come back, you get another war with Eddie Alvarez, even though that was going your way. That was still a fight that could make you maybe be hesitant in your next fight. Nope, you come in headline against Anthony Pettis, a former champion, and get stuff done. Is that what you were talking about earlier, Dustin, as far as physical prime versus your mental prime as a fighter?
Yes, sir. I not that these defeats don't hurt, but now I just know this is fighting. This is the test that fighting brings, and I embrace all that. And like I said, I'm going to be one of those guys that stays true to the past, gets back to the drawing board. I've never lost 2 fights in my career back to back, amateur or pro, and I have 37 fights. So, I just want to keep learning and keep growing, and different things in life, like being a father and being just you grow and turn corners in your career, like we talked about earlier, and I think I'm just hitting my stride right now.
We also have Eric Nicksick from Extreme Couture here with us. He's co-hosting today's show. Eric, what do you have for Dustin Poirier?
Dustin, was there a specific fight in win or loss that you felt it kind of changed your trajectory of your career? Maybe you learned the most from one of those wars that you might have had? I don't even want to say the guy's name, but it's probably the Conor McGregor fight. I just was really emotionally involved in the whole build-up to that fight, and I fell down a big crowd and on a big stage, and I got embarrassed in that fight, I feel. And that really made me go home and say, what differences can we make? What changes can we make? What can I do differently that I don't feel? I never want to feel that feeling again. I never want to be, walk into the cage wanting to it was a weird feeling I had going into that fight. And I think it was a lot of emotions. And I don't, this is competition. Of course it's emotional because you're fighting for your family and you're fighting another man trying to hurt you. But I'm keeping it competition now. I don't need to get crazy and overthink these things. Fighting is what I do, what I've done for over the last 10, 11 years. Every single day I am fighting. Even though it's just a small part of my life, I'm a husband and a father and a son and a brother, a friend, but fighting is, it is my life. Everything I have in my life is because of my 2 hands and my commitment to be the best fighter I can be. So, I honor this game and respect every opponent now, and it's just, I'm a different person now, and I think it's showing in my fights. I'm going to continue to grow. Awesome.
Love it. And how about that? He's right. Alvarez, former Bellator champ, but also became a UFC champ, had a great showing there. Pettis, former WEC champ and UFC champ, beat him, and now Gaethje. I mean, he is fighting 3 former champions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, 3 guys that have held 5 major belts. That's pretty damn impressive.
And I appreciate it, man. And I take pride in not sliding by these guys or not being happy to hang with these guys. I'm punishing these guys, outclassing these guys. And, deep in my heart, I feel like I'm going to finesse Justin Gaethje, and it's going to be another beautiful performance.
Yeah,
so tune in April 14th.
We were just talking about that, too.
Yeah, and I like you said, you're not really the sit-down guy at the offices with the brass, but God damn, I mean, 2018 would be a damn shame if you get past Gaethje and somehow you're not getting a shot at a world title. I just think you've earned it, man.
I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen. I'm going to beat Justin Gaethje. Eddie's going to play the waiting game to try to get a big fight game, and I'm going to pass him up, and I'm going to get a shot at the title. That's what's going to happen.
You know what's weird is, why is he – you shouldn't even feel like you're behind Alvarez.
Right.
I mean, if anything, you guys are even just because of what the no contest says.
Right.
But a lot of people came out of that a few weeks ago. That was a great performance. You got to tip your hat there. But One other thing I want to say, you've been in the sport for a long time and you're successful when almost every weekend you can hang back and go, oh, I fought that guy. Oh, I beat that guy.
Right.
Look at some of the skins on his wall. Bobby Green just won, right? He beat Bobby Green. Yancy Medeiros is headlining the Texas show, but he recently had that great fight in Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that same card, Max Holloway as well.
When you start delving in his record, what I really like too is that he's never taken a back-to-back loss either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a guy that, like he was talking about with the McGregor thing, hey, I took a loss and I came back and fucking reeled some together too, so I think that's important.
Yeah.
Hey, and every loss is heartbreaking, I go back home and I'm like, I can't believe I lost. I feel like I'm the best guy in the world. I put so much into it. But, like the saying, adversity introduces a man to himself, and I'm pretty well acquainted at this point, man. So I'm ready for the future.
One last thing before we let you go. The more and more I watch these shows on Discovery about snakes, I still can't believe you fucking snapped their necks or whatever the hell you used to do as a kid. That is so crazy. This Fertiland snake in Costa Rica.
Oh, I mean, not to be messed with.
Oh, hell no, man. So for one, if I see it, I'm running the other way. Two, if I see it and I'm not running the other way, the one thing I'm not doing is playing with it. And let's just say someone talked me into playing with it. I think what I do is I'd say, fine, we're done playing. Get him away from me, and this guy's actually snapping the neck.
I'm in Cajun country out here. I'm talking about smaller snakes. You're talking about Costa Rica. You're talking about, like, rainforest type stuff. I'm not messing with that either. That's like anacondas and stuff.
Yep.
I don't even know if I get my hands around those things. I'm running for sure.
My man, thanks for the time here on the show. We can't wait. We're gonna start promoting it now because it's gonna be a great one. All your fights are great fights, and this one truly is gonna be huge on Big Fox as well. So that's yet another audience, and hopefully you get that shot in 2018.
Thanks, man. It'll happen. I promise you guys.
All right, thanks, Dustin. Take care, buddy.
Thanks.
See ya. All right, there you have it. One of the best in the business, Dustin Poirier. He's earned his spot to get that type of respect from fans and media. He's definitely paid his dues.
I had him in that McGregor fight. I bet on Poirier.
So did I.
I thought he was just gonna be too much for Conor.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take one more break. We have right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get that one out of the way, and then we'll close up shop. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
What's next for Eric Nicksick?
What do we got?
Chipotle.
Yeah, Chipotle sounds good. Caraway.
Okay. When does he fight?
It'll be here, March 3rd.
Oh, nice.
Cody Stamen.
Ooh, tough fight. Yeah.
Yeah, tough fight. Good fight.
All right.
And
That's
then,
that's the muscular kid from Minnesota, right?
Michigan.
Michigan
kid, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then we got Brad on the Glendale card.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait to give the opponent out, but Brad will be on that as well. So, yeah.
Cool. And then
busy.
Hall is fine physically, just taking time off?
Yeah, taking time off, and then he ran all of his tests and did all that stuff too, so just kind of waiting to hear back what was going on with him.
Mm-hmm. And
but, kidneys are working and heart's fine. So
Ige,
doing great.
He got a lot of respect at the gym. I saw a lot of people, telling him, hey, that was one hell of a debut. You know, he took one in the L column, but either way,
good fight.
He fought his ass off.
It was. I think we got about 2 weeks notice on the opponent change, or we knew we were going to get a new opponent. We just didn't know who at the time. And then it was Julio. Fought a great fight. Used his range well. Tough southpaw. It would have served us a lot better if we had Zach Dusola and Boston in the gym. You know, really good southpaw guys that would have gave us a better look. So, but man, what a scrap! What a scrap! Yeah, Dan did a great job. And back to the drawing board. Some things we need to work on to get better.
Super Bowl. Who are you rooting for?
Eagles.
Eagles?
I'd be rooting for the Eagles, yeah.
You betting them?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to touch it, to be honest with you. I'm a big first half under guy. I like betting first half unders in national championship games and Super Bowls. I feel like the nerves kind of settle in. You see a couple punts here and there, and that's a pretty safe bet.
So what is the first half?
I like
3 and 24.
Yeah. Always a pretty
so
safe bet.
You take Eagles plus 3 and under 24.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that.
Yeah, I like the unders in the first half.
That big four, that front four. Actually, you know what? The Eagles have 7 good defensive linemen.
They're
going to rotate them and come after Brady.
Yep.
And, maybe
you got a lot of Florida State boys on that defense.
Try and disrupt.
Timmy Jurgens, Ronald Darby, Patrick Robinson, Bradham.
It's pretty impressive, though, that those guys are a machine, and even like losing a guy like Gronk for over half of the game, they were still able to go out there and compete. You know
all scheme, plug it back in,
Yeah. We'll see. All right. We got to get out of here on time today. Thank you to Dustin Poirier for his time. Thank you to Eric Nicksick for his time.
Having me.
Tomorrow, Anna Hulaton, former professional boxer, will co-host with us. We also have Ben Wynn. We're going to wake him up early. He's in Brisbane, Australia, so it'll be an early call for him, but it will be live. He'll be on the show, and then we'll continue to work throughout the week. We also have some adjustments for Thursday and Friday show, but we'll tell you about that tomorrow. So we're out of here for today. Go out there and be a champion.